There are two casting directors. One of them laughs and admits that she spends 4 seconds to watch most of these tapes. Her work speaks for itself. What do her producers think that she's proclaiming that she's watching all these tapes for 4 seconds?
Yeah, that's true.
What is their job? If they're going to be a great casting director and they're going to discover the next Edward Norton, then good luck doing the 4-second rule.
Said to the director who's in the room, she goes, I'm so sorry, he's a great actor. Normally, I'm going to find out what's going on. She went and she called that guy's agent, and the agent said right before the audition, his mother went into hospital. So he came in out of his mind.
I have a friend who's the head of a visual effects company. He opened up my eyes as far as what people have always been doing with digital technology. Actors have no idea. We've been perfecting performances from the greatest actors in the world digitally.
What?
You know how we always say, hey, they'll fix it in post? What about they just say, we'll fix it with AI? Hey guys, this is the Actor's Guide to the End of the World podcast, where we talk about acting in Hollywood in a way people understand. I'm Econ Song, and this is
Rían Kelly, how you doing?
Doing well. How you holding up over there?
I'm good, man.
Crazy weather has subsided?
Crazy weather has subsided. It's very pleasant. I'm a year older than I was in our last podcast.
Oh, yeah. Happy birthday.
Thanks, man. I had a birthday, 43. I don't know how I feel about that. I'm pretty okay with it, I think.
That's good. And you got to celebrate with family?
Yeah. I had my niece help me blow out the candles on my cake, which is lovely. My 3-year-old niece, which was great.
I saw
celebrated
that picture.
with family, and then I'm gonna go over to Manchester tomorrow and see a friend and watch a game of football, soccer, for the Americans.
That is a way to celebrate. If you're not following us yet, follow us wherever you find all podcasts. We're on YouTube. We're on Substack. Follow us on all social media at Actors Guide Podcast. And if you have comments, please email us, actorsguidepodcast@gmail.com. All right, so a lot to talk about this episode. We get into the casting director controversy that kind of blew up the past couple weeks. A casting director admitted to saying that they only watch self-tapes for 4 seconds. That was a bit of a doozy in our community. We're going to talk about that.
Imagine doing that in an interview.
Strong opinions about
Imagine
that.
doing that in a job interview. Just to put it in context, someone comes in, they sit down. One, how you doing? My name. No, next. That's essentially what we're talking about here. I just knew they weren't right for the job by the way they sat down.
That's a great point. We're also going to get into a little bit about the Emilia Pérez controversy. We're not going to get into all the tweets, but more specifically, Emilia Pérez and The Brutalist, both Oscar-nominated films, used AI. There's some controversy, both sides of it, and we're going to get into it. We also talk about you're going to see a big soccer game. The Super Bowl's this weekend. We talk a little bit about a little fun football and sports
banter.
So this is a good one.
Yep. Now, a quick word from our sponsor.
Is craft services the only time you eat a decent meal?
Do you feel a little ashamed walking off set with fistfuls of brisket?
Meet Crafty Bag, the stylish and environmentally conscious way to steal food from set.
There are no limits with Crafty Bag. You can go from fig Newtons to filet mignon.
Now comes in green screen. Crafty Bag is not waterproof. Spillage may occur.
It is interesting timing. You're going to watch a great football soccer game, and then also the Super Bowl's this weekend. So
that's right. Go Birds.
Yeah.
Is that right? Is that what we say? Go Birds.
That's exactly what we say. Yeah, you learned well.
Tell me about Eagles fans, because they have a bad reputation.
If you go down in history, there are a handful of incidents that kind of solidified Eagles fandom. Like years ago, there was a Santa Claus at one of the games, and everyone was literally throwing snowballs at him. Okay, now that's actually pretty tame.
It's not the worst thing I've ever heard. It's Christmas, Santa, snowballs.
Eagles fans are known for being passionate. Sofia is a no bullshit town. It's show up to work, blue collar, very grounded. People actually describe it. It's more New York than New York. So when you think of what New York is like, and you think of New York like New York sports fans are luxurious compared to the Philly fans, because you have the Yankees. There's a lot of money. There's a lot of money in Manhattan already. And the vibe of Philly is very much just show up to work, have a couple beers at the bar, and watch the game. The Eagles is such a huge part of Philadelphia. I'm in South Jersey. I grew up in South Jersey. I was born outside of Philly.
I was going to ask.
So this is kind of
Jersey.
This is,
it's like if you're from Jersey, there's a chance you'll be an Eagles fan. Is that?
100%.
Okay.
We have a lot of Eagles. Like I think for the most part, for a while, the Eagles actually practice in South Jersey. A lot of them live in South Jersey. We're right across the border. Like Philadelphia is literally a drive over the bridge for 20 minutes. So South Jersey is all Eagles fans. You know, obviously we've been doing really well as a sports team for the past 10, 15 years, which is nice. But we were one of those tortured fans trying to win a championship, and it's been taking forever to finally do it, and we finally did it in 2018. I was actually there. I actually went to the Super Bowl that year.
That's right, I remember.
And so it's one of
videos.
top things in my life that I've ever experienced. Anyway, so
did you go to
Eagles
more than one
fans
Super Bowl?
Yeah, I did. I went to 2 years ago in Kansas City.
That's right, I remember that.
Oh, I'm sorry, 2 years ago in Phoenix. We're trying to repair the reputation, but for the most part, it's all kind of in the past. There's a tradition in Philadelphia where fans climb up the street poles, the street lamps. It's a tradition.
Is that a bird thing? I don't understand the reference. They just like.
Actually, I didn't even think about that. That's brilliant. I don't think that's a connection, but that makes a lot of sense. There was a few years back, City put out an announcement. They are greasing the street poles. Meaning, do not try to climb them.
Okay.
We're greasing them. Yeah. Okay. This gives you an idea of where we're at. This is where we're at.
Okay. I was surprised at the hysteria surrounding some American football games. I went to tailgate at a Northwestern Ohio State game in Columbus, Ohio, back in 2008. I was amazed at how the entire city of Columbus showed up for the game. Everybody was out in the street. Everybody was all about football. It's like a religion there, and we don't have anything to compare that to here.
So you guys don't, and when I say you guys, I'm assuming you're talking about in Dublin or Ireland. You guys don't go nuts over soccer?
It's just not quite the same. There is very passionate fans and there's rivalries and all that kind of stuff, but it's not quite the same as that. The numbers aren't quite as big. People do get very passionate about international soccer and rugby. And then we also have Gaelic football and hurling.
It's split up a little bit, segmented
Yeah, it's split between different sports, and it's also not the whole city showing up, and everything being about that one team.
It hasn't always been like this. There was other sports that were competing, but it is so dominant right now for various reasons. I'm not going to go into that, but I just want you to, across the nation, there's a reason why football is the best TV product, and this is what everyone watches. These people want to leave it all out on the field. There's very little taking days off. I'm still biased. I think it's the ultimate team sport in America right now. The other thing I will say is to go along with these rivalries, especially here in America, and unfortunately, for various reasons, we're very polarized in America when it comes to different cities and states, and there's sometimes politics involved in these rivalries. So one of our division rivals was the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys, Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia, Dallas. You can't get two cities that are more different. And that is kind of like one of those things, the beauty of America, where you travel across the country, you realize, hey, all these communities are so different. That makes us hate each other even more. Right? And I'm just being honest. And a lot of that has to do with so much beyond the sports, beyond the game of football, which is actually kind of awesome. That being said, you'd hope that no one gets hurt or killed.
Obviously. For here, I played a little bit of rugby in school, and rugby is an incredible team sport. I played soccer my whole life. That was my main sport and still is. But rugby, I'm glad I got to experience what it's like to play rugby, because everything is for the team. They talk about all this stuff. And I played when I was, 16. And they were talking about, you put your body on the line for this team. You know what I mean? That's drilled into you from a very young age.
About. And also, to be fair, rugby is actually very similar to American football.
Yeah. If you're just tuning in, guys, welcome to the Actor's Guide to Sports that we like and don't.
So this kind of lit up a fire in a lot of actors in the past. Let's see. This happened January 30th. So this is actually pretty recent. A lot of different opinions are going off about this. There was a podcast between a couple Atlanta-based directors.
Casting directors.
the podcast was talking about how much time they spend watching self-tapes. One of them laughs and admits that she spends 4 seconds to watch most of these tapes. And I will quote, and I'll give these names just for context. This is Raven Drummer and Tiffany Roche. To be clear, they are both co-hosting this podcast. Raven Drummer was the one asking the question. Tiffany Roche was the one admitting to give very little time to audition tapes.
Let's just start back for people who don't know. A self-tape is where you tape an audition and you send it in. Since the pandemic particularly, most of our auditions are self-tapes. So you will get a scene or 2 scenes and you will tape them at home with a reader, and you will, send them to your agent and they'll send them on to the casting director. In some ways, it's been great for us because you can do it from anywhere, really. You don't have to go into a casting director's office. On the other hand of that, they see a lot more people for roles now because they get a load of tapes. So that's just to give you the background of like what a self-tape is and how they look at them. Now, for a casting director to spend 4 seconds on a tape, I think is crazy. Because one, not just because it takes a lot of effort to put these tapes together. We are now responsible as actors for our lighting, our sound quality, for getting a reader, for taping, for all of the technical aspects of that, as well as all the performance aspects, packaging it up and sending it off. In the old days, before self-tapes were the norm, you would go into a casting director's office and you would do an in-person audition. So, they would provide a reader, you would go in, you would do the audition. That's just to give people who don't, or aren't familiar with the process. That's the background. I think 4 seconds on an audition tape is pretty insulting. I don't know. What do you think?
No, I think this is a good place to start. And I let me just clarify this. According to this article, Raven Drummer laughs out loud as she listens to fellow casting director admit to giving very little time to audition tapes. Roche says, "I'm dead serious. Does it take 8 seconds to figure out if it's a man or a woman? Does it take 10 seconds to figure out if it's an Amazon driver or a surgeon? No. When someone shows up as they are, they show up as they are. That's the human process. So when I come across a tape and they are what they are from second one, from beginning, yeah, they're in character. They're telling the story. That's what I'm hiring them to do. I'm not waiting to figure out if they can convince me if they can do the job." So I just want to be clear. That wasn't Raven Drummer saying that. That was Tiffany Roche. I think there's a lot of lessons in this for actors that we'll get into. Because, in an attempt to be fair, I don't know Raven Drummer personally, but I know that I've auditioned for her in the past and still do. Raven Drummer, from what I understand, is a gift to a lot of actors and a champion for actors. She's been doing it for a really long time. And she was not the one who was saying 4 seconds. And I'm going to go into what she responded with and what her methodology was, which was actually also educational. Tiffany Roche, and this is not any shade. Tiffany Roche, on her credit, she has one major TV show for Tyler Perry, I believe. She doesn't have as much work as Raven Drummer. And that was the one saying the 4 seconds. So I just want to clarify here. We're not here to demonize anyone. We're trying to make sense of it, and we're trying to make sense of it for any actors. Okay. No one is going to defend this. A lot of people thought it was insensitive. They removed this clip of their podcast on their Instagram, or at least according on this link, it was removed. The podcast is still up. So I actually listened to their actual podcast. So I wanted to listen to it fully in context, in conversation. I have questions about those comments. I have questions. She sounds like she's talking about specifically 2-3 line co-stars. Amazon delivery man, doctor. And it just seems so reductive. You're telling me that you're going to watch an 8-page series regular of all the different colors and varieties, and 4 seconds across the board. 4 seconds. It just so I'm wondering if it was a great clicky bit for a podcast, or this is literally your MO that you've been doing for 7 years. And I want to get into what Raven Drummer's methodology was, which was more, to be honest, it was a lot better. The other question is she a good casting director? Is she a good casting director? Does her work speak for itself where this is her methodology? If she's the most brilliant casting director, we can't really fault it. This is her methodology. That means that she's not going to really see if the actor's making different choices. She's not seeing the moments at the end of the tape. And what do her producers think that she's proclaiming that she's watching all of these tapes for 4 seconds? What do her bosses think about all this?
Yeah, that's true.
What is their job? If they're going to be a great casting director and they're going to discover the next Edward Norton, then good luck doing the 4-second rule.
I just think 4 seconds is so dismissive. And she was quite, and I saw the clip, and she was quite proud of it.
You did
I
see the clip.
She was quite proud of it.
Oh, wow. They pulled it down after that.
Okay.
Yeah.
She was kind of laughing
you're
about
right.
it.
She
She's
did
like,
seem...
yeah, she was dead. She wasn't apologetic or anything. She was just like, nope, I know. I know in 4 seconds. Which to me smacks of hubris. I don't know. It just seems it seems a bit arrogant to me to say that you could know within 4 seconds where other people take more time. I understand that I have known, and it's common knowledge that casting directors do not watch all of our self-tapes.
And a lot of them admit or swear that they watch all of them. A lot of them do.
Oh, well, that's great. I mean, I hope they do. But I also know as actors, and I've done it myself, sometimes you'll agonize over a choice you made towards the end of a tape, whereas it's not always being seen. So, but I think for her to admit that is really silly. It doesn't do her any favors. It doesn't serve her in any way.
I agree. That's a big swing. And this is their first episode of their podcast. As an actor, and I don't want to be completely naive, this is an indication and a perfect example of where our industry is right now. This is an industry that's becoming overrun with capitalism, high profits, overworking everything. For the smallest role, you are going to see 50 to 100 some tapes. The question is it physically possible to watch for every role a 3-minute tape?
Yeah.
It might not be physically possible in this day and age, and I'm not defending it, but what I'm saying is that was compared to 15 people going into a room and they see 15 people for this one co-star. So this is where the demands are going.
I want to say in defense of casting directors, because I know a number of casting directors, I've been a reader for casting directors. Casting directors are, in my experience, champions of actors. They like actors. So I think she just doesn't do the profession any good by, she's kind of actively harming the image of casting directors by saying that, because I guarantee you that's not the norm. I would almost guarantee you that most casting directors are watching more than 4 seconds of a tape. Like you said, it can be, it can be physically impossible to watch every tape start to finish. But I think that there's more consideration than just the first 4 seconds.
A more reasonable take is Raven Drummer was saying, I have a lot of actors that I've known over the years who I know are strong actors. And it's going to be more common for me to watch their entire tapes. She didn't give a time frame, a black and white 4-second time limit. She said, I know a lot of great actors. I will watch their entire tape. And I will watch, do they get these moments? Is this what I'm looking for? But a lot of great actors, you earned this trust that I know that you put out good work. The rest of the competition, she would measure against that tape. That sounds reasonable. That actually sounds like a lot of things that sometimes we learn in class over training over at Leslie Kahn. Because if you're missing in the first 4 seconds or first 10 seconds, if you missed 3, 4, 5 moments that other people crushed, guess what? They're probably not going to give you too much more time after that. And I'm just being realistic from what I feel like the standards are right now. Anyway, I thought that was a little more reasonable and realistic.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more casting directors' takes on it, because that's interesting. Earning the right to sort of have your tape viewed. I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest. But look, that's the way she works.
I feel you. Let me put it this way. Daniel Day-Lewis walks into your office. I would love to see someone cut him off after 4 seconds. My point is I'm just saying, isn't it human nature to be like, okay, Daniel Day-Lewis is going out for this role. Let's see what he got. I think a lot of that past work and history and reputation does come along with some actors. Say you're completely fresh, completely brand new, but you're like, wow, okay, there's something about him in that first 4 seconds moment before. I'm still watching, and then it's still good, and then more moments are not lost, and then I was like, you kind of are giving me a reason to keep watching. I would want to say that a great self-tape is asking that from ourselves, or at least that's the bar, whether you're Daniel Day-Lewis or a no-name. What do we do with this information? And is this just a really telling example of what the industry has become and what our mindset needs to be when it comes to these tapes? Leslie would agree with this. Even more so during self-tapes, crush your first 4 seconds. I mean, that's the one thing that we can take away from all this. Crush your first 4 seconds. Crush your moment before. You need to crush it because apparently some people, maybe not just this one, is watching for only 4 seconds. A huge casting director, former casting director, now acting teacher, just put out a video of her response of it yesterday.
Oh, okay.
So I think a lot of this stuff needs to be talked about right now, and we parse through, hey, let's not overreact. What do we learn from this? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it just kind of clarifies for me how we just have to be great at what we do and to be really specific and really, as accurate as possible and come in as that character. Everything that we learn in class.
Going back to, and I don't want to dig into this and dig up old wounds. There was a big controversy back and forth how Atlanta casting director was supposedly getting into a spat over Twitter of all things, so on and so forth. The casting directors were almost taking pride in the fact that they can get decent actors for cheaper, despite Atlanta having Marvel films and all the Marvel projects and huge big budget TV shows. It's just interesting how this is Atlanta yet again. I feel like this is kind of the growing pains of a market that is doing very well and in a way trying to become Hollywood 2.0. Hopefully we can grow from this because, hey, I audition and I work in Atlanta. I would hope that we can kind of get to a common ground of respect for a community for all departments.
Yeah, and I would recommend to any actor, if you get the chance, be a reader for a casting director. Be a reader for auditions and see how people come into the room. See how they show up. You'll see the people who are prepared. You'll see that some people can be great, but just one of them is right for the role and the other isn't for whatever reason. I was a reader for a casting director in Chicago one time, and a guy came in and he didn't give a great audition. And the casting director said to the director who's in the room, she goes, "I'm so sorry, he's a great actor. Normally, I'm going to find out what's going on." She went and she called that guy's agent, and the agent said right before the audition, his mother went into hospital. So he came in out of his mind, stressed out and worried. And he came in and did the audition, and he was all over the place, and you could tell. And she went back in and told the director, she goes, somebody had a personal issue, his mother went into hospital. I think it would be good to bring him in again because I know he can do the job.
You become peers and you become colleagues. You're helping them do a job. You're providing your services as an actor for this casting director. It helps destroy the wall of, hey, they're against us or they have status above us. One of the greatest things I've ever done, I was a casting director. I was a reader for a casting office. One of the best casting offices in Hollywood still. My first handful of jobs that I booked was through them. So under the table, they'd be like, hey, read for this. Hey, read for this. A lot of these jobs left the industry because they were getting in trouble because they were interns. It's a shame for a lot of other actors because a lot of actors are like, I want to watch these auditions. I want to read with all these actors. Just to put a cherry on top of all this, if you create your own short, write, direct, produce your own projects, and if you put out an audition on LA Casting or Actors Access and you see 300 tapes come in, it's going to be mind-blowing. Yeah. The experience that you're going to get from auditioning and you have one role to cast and you're going to see one person just completely nailed it and you're going to see all these other great actors that you're not going to cast.
Yeah, that's a great point, actually, because we did see one of our, someone we know in our class did that, and it opened up his eyes to the casting process, and he was able to talk about it then from a different point of view.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, casting directors is in the Oscar competition right now.
Rightly so.
Actually, is it? I don't remember the nominations. Oh, films released in 2025 and beyond.
2026.
Next year.
Okay, 2026.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So the industry is shifting, and to your point, casting director is going to get acknowledged by the Academy. For another thing that's happening right now, okay, where do we start with Emilia Pérez? Now, this is not going to be a dive into Karla Gascon getting canceled. By the way, her Oscar campaign was born and died before you and I even got a chance to watch a movie. We're not going to get into all that. That's actually a side issue for what we were really going to get into. But let's just address it really quick. Being up with this, right?
Yeah. I saw her tweets.
First trans actor nominated, Best Actress, makes history. Emilia Pérez has the most nominations in history for a foreign language film. And next thing you know, tweets were discovered regarding speaking about past Oscars being woke. She had comments about Gaza. Just across the gamut, they were uncovered. And in the blink of an eye, I see a headline the next day. Her Oscar campaign is dead. She recently said she's not getting out of the competition. She did make formal apologies. Zoe Saldana, who's nominated as well, and also in the movie, says she does not approve. And just recently, the director has not spoken to her at all and disavows Karla Sofia Gascon. So the director says, hey, I stand up for the film and during this award season, but disavows Gascon.
Yeah.
We're just going to put that out just for context. This is what happened. She's still in the competition, and apparently Netflix is pulling her from all the Oscars campaign award stuff. This happened in a blink of an eye.
When you say an Oscars campaign, do you mean that like she is campaigning for her own Oscar? As in, like, what else goes into that?
So that's a really great point. And I want to say this not being cynical. There is so much money behind these award shows and campaigns. How long have we been talking about screenings and award screenings and FYC screenings? We've been talking about it for 3 months. That's how much money they've been throwing at it. They go, we're going to book this theater so everyone can see Emilia Pérez. We're going to have Selena Gomez and Zoe Saldana go over there. There's going to be a reception. We're going to have a whole staff working these events. This has been going on straight for 3.5 months. And if you're a huge movie getting 13 nominations for Oscar, that's a lot of money that's been going out. That's for a director as well. That's across the world. They're doing screenings across the world right now so everyone can see it. That is how much money. So here we are. Karla Gascon says, I'm not stepping out of the competition, even though I apologize. And everyone's like, we're probably not going to vote for you. Everyone else in the movie, Netflix, they already put so much money into this, and they got a chance to win Oscars. So they're going to push all these things and maybe just leave her out.
When does the voting close? How late is too late? If a scandal breaks after voting is done.
Oh, that's a great point. Let's look at this. Oh, okay. Well, that's reasonable. Final voting isn't until February 11th to February 18th. Okay, so there you go.
So she's blown it
here's
now.
The thing.
There's no way she wins.
Yeah, exactly. So if anyone changed their mind, they are going to vote for it next week. So there you go.
And how, as an actor, do you get asked to be a member of the Academy? Or
we'll dive into all this disgusting back alley mess too, because this is part of the issue. You have to get nominated to become part of the Academy and all that stuff. So the question is there enough diversity in that? That's a whole another rabbit hole. Moving beyond this, I will add, you sent me this great article. After a lot of this debacle, people had issues with this film because It's a film in which a cartel kingpin emerges as a women's rights activist about Mexican culture. None of them are Mexican. Karla Sofia Gascon is Spanish. And it's written and directed by a French director. Everyone's so happy that this is getting so many nominations and everyone's loving this movie so much. It's kind of crazy how much everyone was loving it. It was sweeping the awards. Latinos and a lot of Mexicans were quietly saying, well, no one that's part of the movie is actually Mexican. Yeah. I do want to add, Selena Gomez apparently is of Mexican and Italian descent. And this is Hollywood. This is tons of money. This is huge spotlight. This is the most nominations for a foreign language film in history. And now it might be just incredibly...
And you know, I suppose it only occurred to me when you were saying there, Oscar, you know, campaigning for her Oscar. That means like an Oscar nomination for an actor or a film itself means so much to that film in terms of revenue, I would imagine, because it puts it in a category that people are automatically going to watch. I'd love to know how much that adds in value to a movie if it's Oscar nominated, or if one of the actors in it, I mean, then the movie obviously, you know, nominated for one Oscar or whatever. I didn't even think of that. I suppose they're like, oh, they just picked the best films, you know, people vote. But it's, so of course people put money into campaign, like the screenings. I hadn't even thought about the cost of screenings and how much that costs. So
I've heard people close to behind the scenes in studios dealing with awards, dealing with events, and they're talking about Oscar campaigns. They are literally trying to win Oscars. It's not so-and-so A-list actor winning the Oscar. It's, we didn't win an Oscar. It's the campaign didn't win an Oscar. It's, hey, we did everything right. Every article, every headline, every blurb. How do we not win? It was eye-opening. It was eye-opening because, you know, on the artistic side, we would like to say, do a great job, vote for the best movie, vote for the best performance. But, you know, on the studio side, that's what that is.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what I really wanted to get into, there was AI used in Emilia Pérez and The Brutalist, both huge favorites, heavily nominated films. There was AI used in both those films. We're going to talk about, is it fair? Is it overblown? And is this yet another indication of where we are in our industry?
Yeah.
The Brutalist, Adrian Brody plays a...
Was it Hungarian or something? Hungarian. I think it's Hungarian.
Yeah, thank you.
That was part of that was what the AI was used for, right? Was pronunciation of Hungarian words that he couldn't quite get.
So this is the Hungarian accent. They used AI to tweak, perfect, or improve the accent. And Emilia Pérez, Karla Sofia Gascon is a singer, or it's a musical, so they're singing in the film. The singing voice was blended with that of the French pop star Camille, who co-wrote the music for the movie. This is the controversy of what was being picked apart the past month and a half. Now, a lot of people in the crew and in the film world are saying, guys, they've been doing things like this for a long time, and maybe we just didn't know. Maybe it's become easier and cheaper using AI. It's just, AI is such a buzzword right now. For those that don't know, we talked about a lot during the actors and writers strike. AI is a huge thing going on for the past year, if not longer. So this is going to light up a lot of actors and creatives.
It's because it's AI that it's concerning. If you said they got a Hungarian actor to dub certain lines, it wouldn't be the same conversation. Which is, in some ways, is kind of the same thing. You're replacing dialogue with something else. As far as in Emilia Pérez, if they got another singer to just sing and she just lip synced, you know what I mean? Or they dubbed over her singing, it wouldn't be the same controversy. I think just the fact that it's AI, and because of what AI has the potential to be able to do, is why it's more concerning. Because if you allow it for certain things, are you opening the door to people being replaced? All of the fears that we've talked about and that people are talking about with AI. That's where it's tricky. On those two things are relatively innocuous, I think. in isolation, but I don't know if you take them into the larger context of where are we headed with it.
2 lead actors nominated for Best Actor. It's one thing to be like, hey, number 10 on the call sheet, I had you saying this word, but instead you say this word, and we didn't have you bother you come to set. We used AI to generate this scene. Obviously we're creatives. We're, sometimes we might be a little naive. We might be a little idealistic. Do you care the fact that lead actor performance is being voted on? Karla Sofia Gascon. We would like to think, oh my God, she trained for years to sing that part. How beautiful does she sound? Do you actually knock points off of that performance because it was enhanced? Now, if they openly said, yeah, we blended it with this other pop star, we just thought that it worked. There's part of me, when you vote for Best Actor, you kind of want to believe the lie that they're actually doing the job. Now, I don't want to be too harsh about that. I want to believe Adrian Brody worked his ass off perfecting the Hungarian accent.
I heard he did. I
This
read
is the
that he
idealist
did.
in me.
I read that he put, he did a lot of work on that accent, and there was just certain sounds that, unless you're a native Hungarian speaker, you can't make. So,
And that's the question. That is a directorial decision. No one outside of Hungary is going to tell the difference. Apparently, it might have been really, really important to get it perfect and get it authentic.
Rami Malek in when he played
Bohemian Rhapsody?
when he played Freddie Mercury, I believe there was another singer who sang the songs, right?
I don't have a problem with that.
No, I don't either.
My point is first of all, as long as you're honest and you put it out there, then that's all we can ask. And it's a directorial decision whether you say, I want to fix this with AI or I don't.
While Malek sang some of the parts in the film, producers inserted vocal stems from Queen songs, as well as filling in parts with Canadian vocalist Mark Martel.
My point is you could easily do that and not use AI.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
I think that's the point.
Why use AI? By the same argument, why not use AI? I mean, as a producer, I don't mean...
Oh, I love this. My mind just blew up when you just said that. Okay, let's dig into that. I was going to get into this later. We were going into the Super Bowl, and a lot of people were gearing up in the ad world saying that, hey, the Super Bowl is going to be huge with commercials with AI. And in ad week, no robots at the big game. Why AI-made ads are sitting out Super Bowl 59. Brands are treading lightly when it comes to AI during the big game. At least now. In 5 years, it might be different. But at least now, I think a lot of people who can read the room should be asking themselves, how much worth it is it to use AI? That means that we're spending less money to do this technical advancement, and we're spending less money for crew.
So it's basically it's a PR decision. I wonder how long that'll last, and if the public will just will just accept it.
So when we vote for Best Actors, because a lot of people were posing this question, and it just so happens we have 2 actors being nominated for Best Actor. Does it make a difference when you vote for Best Actor? Hey, this was tweaked with AI. Hungarian accent is kind of a perfect example. We won't know how good he was. As actors, you and me would like to do a lot of skills. We would like to learn how to ride a horse, shoot a gun, and expect them to actually do the thing. Would you want AI to make Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone better singers in La La Land? Would you want them to be better dancers? Or do you want them to actually see what they're doing and also get nominated for the
Personally,
award?
I would rather see what
I'm
they're
just
doing.
posing this as a question.
I don't need them to be perfect. You know what I mean? I don't need them to be perfect singers or perfect dancers. So my own personal preference, yes.
A lot of people hated the singing in La La Land, right? Musical theater geeks. Did not rub them the right way. That being said, the performance was what it was, and they got nominated, and they Emma Stone won. The last thing I will say is just I have a friend who's the head of a visual effects company, or at a studio. He's one of the heads of the department. He's high enough to still have a job right now, which is good because they've been cutting departments. I would love to have him on the show at some point. Obviously, the easiest thing is stunt people. You have Mark Wahlberg running into a fire. Sure, it would be nice to digitally do this where the stunt man runs into the fire and makes it look like Mark Wahlberg. That's fine. Everyone wins. No one gets killed. He's saying, You have no idea. We've been perfecting performances from the greatest actors in the world digitally.
What?
They mumble through their lines. They're saying all the... I'm not telling you. Their head is over here. They've been doing that digitally.
What?
We had no idea. They said, we've been cleaning up wardrobe. They've won Oscars for wardrobe that they've been cleaning up digitally. These are the things that are happening behind the scenes. Trying to be fair, and we're trying not to be completely naive.
Well, I didn't know that.
We all... Exactly. And we all wanted to believe that A-list superstar is always amazing. They're not. Where's the line drawn that we didn't need absolute perfection? We would have loved this movie regardless. You know how we always say, hey, they'll fix it in post? What about they just say, we'll fix it with AI?
Jesus, I had no idea. This is a pretty big revelation.
The idealistic side of me wants them to do the real thing. I don't want anything to be fixed up, but we're being unrealistic.
I don't need perfection. And in performance, that's what makes performances interesting. It's not perfection that makes it interesting. It's flaws that make it interesting. It's like, I think that's what makes humans interesting.
Exactly. Does it feel real? Does it feel lived in? Do we feel the soul of it?
So it's basically, how do we have enough power to say, no, we don't want AI in these things, versus money people basically who want AI because it lowers their costs and increases their profits. Exactly. So that's the fight.
We might get to a point where money's not everything. Stay in LA. Hey, let's rebuild LA. Let's push productions to stay in LA because it's important and because LA needs help. That's not about the bottom line. That's the question. Because there's always going to be a cheaper way to get it done.
I feel like we didn't solve a lot or come to many conclusions, but I feel slightly more scared.
Yeah. I think that was the purpose of this conversation. I'm glad that came through.
I feel slightly more unsettled than I did when I came into this conversation.
Oh, man. Yeah, I needed to get that out of my system. Do you happen to have a hidden gem?
I do, I think. My hidden gem for this week, I went to see a really cool show. It's called Accents, written and performed by Emmett Kirwan. I saw it at the Civic Theatre in Tala, but it is on tour around Ireland. I think the next stop is the Mermaid in Bray, which is a really cool theatre. But he's got 2 musicians on stage and he does kind of storytelling, spoken word, which he's sort of famous for. He's well known for in Ireland, if you know who Emmett Kirwan is. But it's brilliant. And he touches on a lot of topics, sort of the birth of his child, but he weaves in a lot of things. He's been very outspoken on a lot of social issues in Ireland. And there was a musician called Owen French who sadly passed away last year of cancer. Went by the name Talos, but he was a brilliant musician and he wrote the music for this show. This is a great show, so if you have a chance to go see it, Accents it's called.
I want to give a shout out to this one. No, we got to talk about Dogman. Talk about Dogman.
What is this Dogman thing?
You see, the fact that you didn't know, this is a animated film in literally in theaters in America right now. Dogman, part dog, part man, all hero. Human police officer and his faithful police dog are injured together on the job. But a life-saving surgery fuses the two of them together. The police officer's mane is screwed up. The dog is also injured, but his body's screwed up. So what do? They put the dog's head on the man's body.
Crazy.
I'm not even joking around. And this is an animated kids movie. And apparently it's heartwarming. It's heartfelt. I heard someone describing it. I was like, this is so ridiculous. But apparently it's a decent movie. That's your hidden gem. Go watch that with your family. Well, I mean, also to be fair, Dogman is literally in theaters across the country. So I don't even know if that's really that hidden. But just give it a little light. Give it a little light to these smaller, weird dog voices.
Give it a boost.
All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a great one. We'll see you next week.
Absolutely. See you then.
Well, thanks for watching, guys. If you like what you saw, maybe give a like, maybe subscribe. It helps people find the podcast. Also, if you didn't catch last week's episode, it's right over here. Don't worry, we'll wait.